All that I'm saying right now about Ramayana comes from Valmiki Ramayana. Sita ji was not the first woman that he had done Zabardasti on. He had kidnapped multiple women. Mahabharata and Ramayana are called itihas. Not every book is called itihas. So the first time Hanumanji sees Ravan, the immediate thought with Hanumanji has, look at his Vyaktitva. He has radiance. So when Hanumanji meets Sita Ma in Ashok Vatika, the most important thing she says, if you rescue me, what will happen to my husband's parakram? Sri Ram could be Sri Ram because Lakshman ji was Lakshman ji. The way Valmiki ji talks about Hanuman is actually a little different. He's called Buddhimatam Varishtham, the greatest amongst the intelligent.
Welcome to the Humans of Bombay show, Ami, and what a great time to have you. It's Diwali week and very fascinated with your journey and to talk to you about these topics.
Thank you so much. Very happy to be here, Karishma. And you've created a brand with Humans of Bombay, and that's really fascinating. So congratulations to you and the team for all that you've been doing.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna ask a question that I think most people would have कि आप एक सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर थे इन्फोसिस में and today your key areas of talking points and you gave up that illustrious career abroad to talk about or study history and mythology. How did we go from being a software engineer at Infosys to history and mythology?
So after Infosys, I worked only a year at Infosys, then I did my MBA and then I was working as a management consultant. So I did that. My professional journey has been of 15 years before the writing really happened. तो ऐसा नहीं था कि सोचा था कभी कि अच्छा वो किया है अब चलो कभी तो जाके लिखेंगे, ऐसा कभी नहीं था. In fact, if you would have asked me even say 2019, I didn't know I was going to write. I was always interested. I was very curious, let's say, because bachpan se we've all heard about Mahabharata, Ramayana, right? And at some point, especially when I moved abroad and used to have these discussions with people, desis abroad and others, it was almost as if people would say कि जो हमारा धर्म है, it is all grey. There is nothing right, nothing wrong. And they'd say, see, look at our itihas. Our itihas, if you look at all the characters, there is nobody who's fully right, there's nobody who's fully wrong, right? Good people have bad qualities, bad people have good qualities. So it's all grey. And then when you ask them, then what is dharma? Because at the end of the day, Mahabharata, Ramayana are also called dharma granthas. It'll be like, हाँ, सब चलता है. And I'm like, ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता ना कि हमारे ऋषि मुनि इतने confused थे कि सही क्या गलत क्या कुछ मालूम ही नहीं है. Everything can't be contextual. That was one. Second, it was almost like I had lots of questions myself on why do we even consider these granthas to be so great, right? Because there have been lots of questions, at least especially today, which youngsters have, not only youngsters, everybody has, about the value systems which these scriptures have, or at least how we understood these scriptures have, right? So the question was, are they even relevant today? Because there used to be lots of arguments about who was right, who was wrong with respect to these scriptures. And at some point, I realized that if I wanted to get the answers and understand the itihas, I don't call it mythology, Mahabharata, Ramayana is itihas as our tradition calls it. So if I want to know itihas for what it is and to get the right lessons from itihas, because that is the purpose of itihas. It is not just a documentation of the past. It is, these are the stories, or in my management jargon, we call it case studies. These are the case studies of our ancestors to help us live our lives better. So if you want to know the lessons and learn the lessons for what they are, you need to know the itihas for what it is. And a lot of work written around itihas, it's always fiction, where people would they would impute their understanding or what they want to see in the itihas on the characters, right? And then what you learn from that, because these are fictional stories, is bodged up completely. So then I was like, if I really need to know, I need to go back to the original. And I used to live in Hong Kong. I had time. So I started reading for the itihas for what it is. I started learning Sanskrit again. And that's it. But it was not with an intention of writing. The writing is, I always say, it's just Krishna Kripa. It just came my way. It just came my way. Somebody proposed that I should write and it just happened.
So as a historian, there's a frequently asked question, right? Many frequently asked questions about the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. One of the top few is that, did it happen? Is it a part of history? How does it fit in the context of history, right? And as somebody who's a keen, you're a historian, and also mythology in that context. So did it happen?
So it definitely happened because, again, as I said, in our tradition, we have to understand this, that what does tradition call these texts? Mahabharata and Ramayana are called itihas. Not every book is called itihas. They are very clear about what is what, right? Even the Bhagavad Puran, Vishnu Puran, even if they have an aspect of history, so to say, we call it Puran, something that happened long time ago, but it is not called itihas. Itihas are only these two texts, Ramayana and Mahabharata. And we have been given the definition of itihas. First of all, the word itself, it means itihasa. So it was, aisa hua tha. Asa, the asa dhatu, the root word asa means is, hua tha, right? So we've been told that these two are itihas, this has happened. And the definition of itihas is also given. The itihas, the way it is defined is dharma artha kama mokshanam upadesham samanvitam purva vruttam kathayuktam itihasam prachakshate. So purva vruttam, something that has happened in the past, So clearly it has happened in the past, that's your answer. Kathayuktam, it has elements of storytelling. In the sense, it could also have some things which we call metaphorical. Also, we need to understand that these histories or stories of our ancestors were communicated orally long back, right? And the purpose was to give us lessons of lives. So clearly, there were some metaphorical aspects which were built in to appeal to people, and more could have been added as they went along, right? So there is an aspect of that as well, because of which sometimes they are clubbed together and called only mythology. Now, mythology itself is not a wrong word, so to say. Mythology means belief system of a group of people. A myth is not mithya. A myth is belief system of a group of people, which may be true, which may not be true. But somehow the connotation of mythology in the Indic context is ye nahi hua tha. And why? Because what happens is our history, especially since the times of colonization, the British colonization, so to say, they had a date defined, which was a biblical date, that the earth was created some 4,000, 5,000 years ago. So anything that happened before that, if they accept that anything happened before that, then the whole theory that they have about the creation of the earth goes down the drain, right? So at that time, they couldn't accept anything that could have happened before X number of years, according to their worldview of the creation timeline. Hence, everything that was ours at that time was pushed to mythology. Then they had to tie it with the Aryan invasion theory, which is in the 1500 BC, right? So if the Aryans have come from outside and they brought everything with them, how can you have Mahabharata and Ramayana that could go back to say 5,000 years, right? It couldn't be in their worldview. Hence, that's how it became. Hence, everything that we had as itihas got called mythology. So I think that's how it happened, but we don't need to stick to those terms, right? We are very clear in our parampara that these two texts are itihas. Whereas we have a clear classification of text. We have Shruti, Smriti. Shruti means that was heard, which is basically the Veda Upanishad. Then we have Smriti. Now, under the Smriti literature, we have Dharma Shastras, we have Vedangas, we have, Vedangas could fall either ways, but okay. We have Darshan, which is called the philosophy now, right? We have Itihas and we have Puran as well. So they're very clear what they are calling what, right? So, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about the Ramayana, right? It's quintessentially most known for the battle between Ram and Ravan, which is good and evil. However, there have been a lot of debates, in the sense that nobody can be fully good and nobody is fully evil.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that basis the text?
So the first time Hanumanji sees Ravan, this is in Lanka, after Hanumanji has found that Sita Ma is in Ashok Vatika. He's destroyed, wo dhwast kar diya hai Ashok Vatika. क्यों? क्योंकि उनको ऐसा है कि वो पकड़े जाए ताकि रावण से वो मिल पाए. So when he sees Ravan in his full glory sitting in his court, the immediate thought with Hanumanji has is this. He says, Aho Rupam, Aho Dhairyam, Aho Sattvam, Aho Dyutihi. He's like, look at this man. Look at his Vyaktitva. He has radiance. He's full of tejas. He's full of duty. He's shining. He's splendid, right? Aho Rakshasa Rajyasya Sarva Lakshana Yuktata. All the good things that you can observe in a personality, physically, you see it in him. He has a great aura. But then to that he adds, only if his adharma was not so strong, he could have ruled the three worlds. Yeah? So that's where that dharma, yadi adharma na balvan syat, only if that adharma was not so strong, he could have ruled the three worlds. Now what is he telling us? Now what is this adharma or what is dharma to begin with? It is not as if Ravan is somebody who could, just... जैसे हम टीवी में देखते हैं कि विलन इज ऑल बैड और वो बात भी ऐसे करेंगे और हंसेंगे भी हा करके. ऐसा नहीं था. ही वॉज अ किंग हु वॉज वेरी पावरफुल. आफ्टर रावण डाइड, आफ्टर श्री राम किल्ड हिम एंड ही वॉज डेड, Mandodari obviously is crying. She's lost everything. She lost her sons, she lost her husband now. But she is not blaming Shri Ram for what happened. She's saying, ye to hona hi tha. For a person, whatever karma you do, the karma phal will follow. I am in fact surprised. How did you not burn off when you actually when you kidnapped Sita? You should have burnt off there only. Her tej should have killed you there and then. How did that not happen? This is what Mandodari is saying. And then she says something very, very, very important, which actually defines what are heroes and villains. He says, Pura Indriyani Jitva. He's like, once upon a time, long back, having controlled all your senses, you won over the three worlds. So Ravan achieved this Vardhan from Brahmaji, right? Of almost Amaratva, that except for human beings, nobody will be able to kill you by doing tapasya. However, maybe those Indriyas are our senses, yeah? Maybe those Indriyas remembered this enmity because you controlled them, no? So now they started controlling you. She's basically saying you became a slave to your senses. You became a slave to what we call the Shadaripu. Kam, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsarya. Lust, anger, pride, arrogance. You became a slave to all of that. And hence, here you are fallen.
You have the result.
You have the result of that.
Right.
So what is that? She's essentially saying that a hero is one who lives his life controlling his mind and senses, lives his life in balance, takes his decision as he should without giving in to lust and pride and arrogance and all of that. A villain is one who does not care about anybody else and he's only taking decision from his viewpoint. Main, right? Now let's look at Ravan. We generally believe that Ravan kidnapped Sita Ma for the sake of his sister. And he did not even touch her. Yeah, that's what we are usually told, right? Do you know Sita Ma? Yeah. Okay, before I tell you the story, I must state this very clearly. All that I'm saying right now about Ramayana comes from Valmiki Ramayana. Yeah, and when I say itihas, I am referring to particularly Valmiki Ramayana because Valmiki ji was a contemporary of Sri Ram. And when I say Mahabharata, it is Vyas ji rachit Mahabharata. Yeah, Sita ji was not the first woman that he had done zabardasti on. Okay. He had kidnapped multiple women in his life. He had raped many women in his life, including his daughter-in-law. Daughter-in-law in the sense, Kuber was his step-brother, yeah? So Kuber's daughter-in-law was Rambha. So by that, she's his daughter-in-law as well, right? Nala Kuber is the son of Kuber and Rambha is the wife. He raped Rambha as well. And at that time, Nala Kuber and Rambha pronounced a curse on him. Then there was another lady called Punjiksthala. Punjiksthala was also raped by him. And she, we are told, complained to Brahmaji. The Vardhan which Ravan got was from Brahmaji. Yeah. Now the Shrap so Brahmaji was like, if ever again you do Zabardasti on a lady, your head will explode. Yeah. So now he was scared. He didn't care about others. But because he thought he was so strong, right? But the Vardhan came from Brahmaji. So clearly the Shrap of Brahmaji was going to be equally potent, right? So that's when he was scared. And that is why he doesn't impose himself on Sita Ma. Not out of any consent. As you know, sometimes people think, oh, usne to ha means ha, na means na. Nahi, aisa kuch nahi tha. He was scared for his death, and that's why he didn't touch her.
And he's a very interesting character, Ravan, because he was a bhakt of Shivji. He was not considered evil in that context, in that sense, until, of course, events pursued. What is the one thing we can learn from his journey?
So when he got the Vardhan from Brahmaji, he became very powerful and very arrogant. And he went around challenging different kings. One of them was his own brother Kuber, yeah? So he defeated Kuber and then he was hanging around, roaming around in Kailash. So Nandiji at that time told, so this is how we get to know about his bhakti. So Nandiji told Ravan ki, "Arey, this is not, you cannot enter this place. Ye Shivji ka krida sthal hai." This is what he says. And Ravan is like, "Ko ayam Shiva? Who is this Shiv? Why do I care? Now your Shiv will see who I am." Yeah. And he's like, "Dekhna main kya karta hu." And we are told that then he started to move Kailash. Yeah. But Shivji is Shivji. So Shivji ne apna jo अंगूठा है वो थोड़ा सा दबा दिया. तो जब शिवजी ने अंगूठा दबा दिया तो उसके हाथ पर कैलाश आ गया and he couldn't move his hands. It became so heavy. The peak became so heavy, right? And he started screaming. Now, because he started screaming and it was so loud and he was crying, the creatures around started screaming and howling and crying. So that word in Sanskrit is called Rav. So from that he got the name Ravan. Yeah. So the bhakti begins not because he is that bhakti matlab kya? It has to come from a sattvic gun of samarpan, of shraddha. That's not how it started. It started out of zabardasti only. Okay, at that point. Achha, after that he became a bhakt, we are told. What do we learn from him? This only, that you may have achieved a lot in life. You may be the strongest in the world, right? However, if you become a slave to your senses and start acting in a way which is harmful to the society around you, you are going to be destroyed eventually. Doesn't matter how strong you are, which Ravan did. Why was he not letting Sita Ma go? It was intense lust. It was not for his sister. Yeah. Even after seeing the parakram of Hanumanji, when everybody, Karishma, every single person, his wife, his mother, his brothers, his Nanaji, everybody told him, what you're doing is not right. We have seen the parakram of Sri Ram even in Janasthan when he killed 14,000 Rakshasas single-handedly. We've seen Hanuman. He came and he destroyed. He challenged us in Lanka itself. Don't take on him. Let it go. Sita ko jaane do. Tumko kami hai kya striyon ki? But he's like, nahi, I want her, matlab I want her. Nothing doing. So then your fall is guaranteed, right? However strong you are. And this is something we have to learn. It doesn't matter how strong we are. If we cannot control our mind, fall is guaranteed.
Another very complicated character, Manthara hai. A lot of people blame Kaikeyi for the Vanvas that Sri Ram was sent to, but it was Manthara who instigated. Do you think the Ramayana would have happened if he hadn't intervened? Okay.
Who was Manthara? Manthara was somebody who came with, who had seen Kaikeyi grow. She was her maid, right? She was very much attached to her queen. She was her maid. As a queen, अगर आप उनके बुद्धि से काम कर रहे हो, तो फिर क्या? As a queen, don't you have a responsibility towards your own self, towards your kingdom, towards your husband, everybody, right? Now, so for her to follow Manthara's buddhi is anyways something that she shouldn't have done, right? So we cannot blame Manthara for that. It is Kaikeyi who is supposed to show more buddhi and take the right decision. Initially, when Manthara is telling her ki Ram is going to be the Yuvraj, so now Kaushalya will become the Rani, will become the Rani Ma, and Bharat will not get anything. Ram might even throw him out and not give him anything. So see what will happen to you and stuff. So initially Kaikeyi is like, "Arey, but I love Ram and Ram loves me. I trust him. Kuch nahi aisa hoga. He will take care of Bharat and me and everybody. And I'm very happy. I'm very happy to hear this news." This is her first reaction. Okay. And Manthara keeps saying, and she's still defending Ram. But you know where it changed, and that's very, very important. At one point, Manthara tells her, ki, what you don't realize is this. Till now, you were the primary queen, right? Whom Dashrath gave all the bhav to. आपको सारा भाव देते हैं दशरथ. जिसके कारण you have humiliated his other wives because of the pride that you have, because the stature which Dashrath has given you. Now, when Kaushalya becomes a Rajmata, what will she do? Obviously, she will take revenge on you, no? Now, Kaushalya Ma wouldn't have done that. That was not her swabhav. But how do we analyze people based on how we are, right? So when Manthara says this, कि तुमने कैसा उनको ह्यूमिलिएट किया था, तुमने कैसे उसकी अवहेलना की थी, वैसे अब वो भी करेंगी. And that changed completely. That changed the worldview of Kaikeyi. And she was like, हाँ यार. Because then that guilt came out, right? She knew she had not treated them well. And she's like, हाँ, now I can't tolerate. I can't tolerate Kaushalya getting more bhav than I'm getting right now, right? So there, that again, Kam, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsarya. Krodh and Matsarya, jealousy. That is what led her to take a wrong decision. So rather than blame game, we see what is it that led to her taking that decision. And again, it comes down to these 6 things.
When we go one step further, Ram takes the Vanvas. Sri Ram is known to be built on the pillar of dharma. It's very dharmic. Now, whether that's towards his subjects or it's towards his wife. One of the most debated topics which keeps coming as a recurring theme is the agnipariksha that his wife had to go through, Sita Ma. What are your thoughts?
So, सबसे पहले तो did agnipariksha happen? Yes. Yeah, it's a part of Yuddha Kand, so it very much happened. Now, some people say, "Arey, aag mein kaise gaye?" Think of it as Agni Sakshi. Doesn't matter. You might just say that she took pratigya on Agni. She may not have entered. Doesn't matter. But did Agni Pariksha happen? Yes. Did Sri Ram question her character? Yes. Okay. But I have to give you a very elaborate answer on this. Because we need to understand how things happened. Yeah. First of all, I know where this question is coming from. I also had that question when I hadn't read the Valmiki Ramayana. And this incident is used to pretty much say that Sri Ram was misogynist in some sense, and he questioned the character of his wife and stuff. And hence, we really need to know Sri Ram before we even come to this incident, right? Because when we call somebody misogynist, there has to be a trend, a pattern in his behavior towards women to label somebody that, right? Was that the case? What led to his Vanvas? His Kaikeyi Ma, right? Sita ji, he didn't force Sita Ma to come to jungle with him. In fact, at one point, Rishi Vashisht said that, okay, if Sri Ram has to go to jungle, fair enough. Sita can become the queen and rule this kingdom in the name of Ram. Sita ji says, no, I want to go with my husband. And even there, she literally forces Sri Ram to take her with him, yeah? So at one point when Sri Ram is trying to tell her that, oh, you don't understand, the life in jungle is going to be very tough. You've never lived like that. You've grown up in luxury in the palace, right? So when Sri Ram is saying all this, Sita Ma says, oh, acha, so you are scared, huh? My father didn't know that he had married me to a woman in the roop of a man. This is what she says, yeah? Because she's like, you can't take care of me. You talk about protecting everybody. And she starts crying. And then at that point, Sri Ram is like, Arey, please don't cry. He hugs her tight. And he says that, without you, I don't even want the heaven. However, tava abhiprayam avignaya vasam na rochayaranye. He says, but without knowing your opinion, I couldn't have forced Vanvas on you. Yeah. So a man who we call misogynist, is actually seeking his wife's opinion and then doing as she wants. Not that he wants to take her. Because in one sense, if Sita Ma aaye hi nahi hote, then the whole thing would have not happened, no? He respected her opinion and took her along. Then we know this incident of Marich, the deer, right? The beautiful deer, the golden deer as he's called sometimes. He tries to take Sri Ram away and then he imitates his voice. At that point, Lakshman is like, so Sita Ma tells Lakshman ki you must go and look after your brother. Lakshman ji says, aisa ho hi nahi sakta. He's very strong. This is definitely somebody trying to deceive us. So I can't leave you because Sri Ram has asked me not to leave you here. But she's so agitated at that point, of course, out of love of Sri Ram, that the kind of words she uses for Lakshmanji is something that even Lakshmanji can't tolerate beyond a point, yeah? Because she actually questions his intention of coming there. And she's like, oh, I know you want Ram dead because you want me. That is what she says, yeah? Of course, that's not what she means, but that's what agitated mind does to you, right? Because she's really, really concerned about Sri Ram and she wants Lakshman to go at any cost. So then Lakshman goes. And we know what happened. The whole Ravan came and took her away and stuff. So all this happened. Then the 1 year of Viraha, before they actually meet again, you should see the description given by Valmiki ji about how much Sri Ram has missed her. Yeah, he's gone crazy. He has cried. He has fallen unconscious. You read those things, you start crying. That is the kind of pain of Viraha that Sri Ram has gone through. Okay. So all this has happened. And then the Yuddha happens. Why has he gone all the way? He doesn't have an army. He doesn't have a usual army, right? He has a Vanar army. They didn't know how they will cross over into Lanka. But they get a bridge built and they cross over into Lanka. Fight this war with the mighty Rakshas army. Defeat them and get Sita Ma. Now when he sees Sita Ma, that day everybody around him is shocked because he's behaving very cold. Okay. जो warmth Sri Ram के character में अब तक दिखाई दिया है, the expressiveness is all gone and he's suddenly very cold. Yeah. And when Sita Ma comes, he questions her character, as we know, as we usually see only that piece, right? And he says, don't think I've come here for you. I have come so that there is no kalank on the name of my kula, on my family, that I couldn't take care of my wife or I couldn't punish the man who took her away. Hence I've come. But you go wherever you want to because you are so beautiful. I'm sure Ravan couldn't have kept his hands off you. Yeah, this is what he says. Everybody is shocked. Hanumanji is shocked. Lakshman is shocked. Everybody is shocked because they're like, where did this come from? So Sita Ma is obviously very, very hurt. And she says, Chitam Kuru Saumitre. Hey Lakshman, put the chitta, put the fire and I will do agnipariksha. So it is her proactive initiative to do the agnipariksha. Okay. So then as we know, the agnipariksha happens and Agnidev comes out. Now this is very, very important. Agnidev comes out and he says, Asyam papam na vidyate. Hey Ram, there is no pap in her. Her character is pure. And you know what Sri Ram says after that? He says, Ananyam hridayam sitam mat chitta parivartinim aham api avagachami. Aham api avagachami means I know. I have always known. I have always known that Sita is fully and fully and fully into me and I am fully and fully into her. Ravan ki aukat nahi thi to do anything to her. Svena tejasa rakshita. She's protected by her own aura. Nobody could have done anything to her. But pratyartham tu lokanam upekshate pravishanti hutashinim. But for the proof of the world, because people will talk, I don't want any question mark on my dear wife. Hence, I did not stop her from doing agnipariksha. Sita cannot be separated from me like the prabha, like the light of the sun cannot be separated from the sun. Sita cannot be separated from me. I have always known. There was not an iota of doubt in my mind about this. Okay, so this is what happens. And Sita Ma does not hold a grudge against him, nothing, because she understands why he's done what he's done. Now the immediate next question, because I'm asked this all the time, yeah? Shouldn't Sri Ram give agnipariksha? He also lived alone for 1 year. Right? That is one clear question. So I have 2 points to make here. There was no reason for Sri Ram to be ek patni vrata. Everybody at that time had multiple wives, especially the kings and princes. Right? It was a norm. It made strategic sense to have multiple wives. Having one wife was not a virtue or anything like that. And second, agnipariksha Sita Ma ne bhi li thi. So it's not as if he did not give pariksha, just that the terms were different. And you know what that pariksha is? I actually spoke about it. So when Hanumanji meets Sita Ma in Ashok Vatika, he tells her, "I found you. Why don't you come with me? Climb onto my back and I'll take you with me away. I'll take you along with me," right? The most important thing she says, if you rescue me, the credit of my rescue will come to you. And what will happen to my husband's parakram? There will be a kalank. People will question his parakram. That, see, he couldn't even take care of his wife in the jungle. See, he left the guy who tortured his wife this way, he let him away, right? मैं नहीं चाहती थी कि उनके सर पे कलंक लगे. And hence, as a Kshatriya Raja, it befits him to come here, defeat Ravan and rescue me. And if that means I need to stay another month, I will. Okay. Now, in one sense, this looks such a big, this looks like wow, right? She was willing to stay another month there. But we are talking of a time when Sri Ram did not even have an army. They were across the sea, 100 yojans away, like 1300 kilometers away, approximately, right? How was he going to come? How was he going to fight the mighty Rakshasas? That was not her concern. Wasn't that a test of Sri Ram's parakram? In that sense, an agnipariksha of his parakram, which she said he has to give if he needs to rescue me. But no, both of them are thinking, मेरे spouse को कैसे, मेरे spouse के character पर कैसे प्रश्न चिन्ह ना लगे. That's actually the beauty of the relation.
Which brings me to my next question, that love and devotion are very common themes and larger than life themes in the Ramayana. But some critics argue that Ramayana perpetuates certain social norms and stereotypes. The wife is a damsel in distress. She needs a hero to rescue her.
But is it true? Is she a damsel in distress? Would a damsel in distress say that nothing doing, I'm coming with you? Would a damsel in distress tell her brother-in-law, I know your nazar is on me, but you remember, I'm not going to come to you? Would a damsel in distress say that? Right? Would a damsel in distress say, I am not going to come with you. Let my husband come here and free me. Is that a damsel in distress? What are we even talking about? That's the problem with a lot of these social commentators. They don't read the text. And they impute their own lens, biased lens on the text. So that's what it is. I absolutely don't think any woman character in the itihas is a damsel in distress. Absolutely not. None of them are. They are taking their own calls. Now, what is empowerment? Empowerment doesn't mean ki AC office mein jaake kaam karo. That is not empowerment. Empowerment is agency, right? Being able to talk your mind, being able to take your decisions. They have taken that. So how are they damsel in distress at all?
Right. It's also important. It's impossible to overlook when it comes to Ramayana the thread of Diwali, right? Which is burai ki har over jeet type of narrative, and we all associate Diwali with that, right? Ki basically Ravan lost. It was the defeat of evil.
Actually, that's Dashera more than Diwali.
Diwali, Dasera, right? So more than, are there any other moments or themes that have symbolic parallels? Not just Diwali, were they more like Dasera, Diwali? How do we kind of weave all of these into this period?
We know Sri Ram came back to Ayodhya. Okay, and when he came back to Ayodhya, there was a celebration. But has it been called Deepavali in Ramayana? No. Do we know if this is the time when he came back, which is we go according to the tithis for our Utsav, right? So the day he came back is Ashwin Amavasya, Krishna Paksh Amavasya basically. So does any text say that Sri Ram came back on Ashwin Amavasya? No. Okay. However, Deepavali dates back even before Ramayana Mahabharata, so to say, in terms of the Utsav, right? And the Utsav is very interesting. It goes across 3 days, which starts from, now for us it is also Dhanteras, but otherwise it used to be Narak Chaturdashi or Kali Chaudas, as we call in Gujarati. Deepavali day and the Kartik Pratipada day, right? So if you see, every day has some story associated with it. So if you see Dhanteras or Dhantrayodashi, that day we say Samudra Manthan happened and Lakshmi ji and Dhanvantari came out of it. And hence you do puja for them. Okay, that is Dhantrayodashi. Then Kali Chaudash or Narak Chaturdashi is when Krishna defeated Narakasur and freed the 16,000 women from his chungal. Okay. So that they say for Narakasur. Then we have Dipavali. Dipavali ke din we do Lakshmi Pujan. Essentially Lakshmi Pujan is the big thing, or Chopra Pujan for Gujaratis, right? So that is for Dipavali. And Dipavali is also when Sri Ram comes back. But if you see, we talk about Sri Ram coming back, but we don't do puja or anything of Sri Ram on that day. We do Chopra Pujan, right? So a lot of these stories have eventually gotten associated with this festival because it is related to our culture. One of my, I can't even call him friend, he's a Sanskrit Vidwan, Srinivas J, who is an assistant professor in Kalidas Sanskrit University. He actually talks about the Shastric origins of Dipavali. And he says, these days are actually somehow connected with the Pitru Puja, ancestor worship. And how? Because we just had Shraddh. Shraddh abhi khatam hua hai na. So Shraddh mein hum Pitru ancestors ko bulate hain. राइट उनको बुलाते हैं कि भाई आप आओ और आपको श्राद्ध जो आपका तर्पण हम करेंगे. ड्यूरिंग दिस टाइम नाउ वी आर आस्किंग देम टू गो बैक टू वेयर देव कम फ्रॉम, राइट. तो इसीलिए यमराज की पूजा होती है, गॉड ऑफ डेथ एंड लाइफ जिस तरीके से देखना है तो वो होता है. एंड जो हम फटाके फोड़ते हैं ना, इट इज कॉल्ड उल्का दानम. उल्का इज फटाके. तो फटाके फोड़ने का कारण ये है, एक तो दीप प्रगटाना, एंड फटाके फोड़ने का कारण ये है कि उनको हम कह रहे हैं कि अच्छा आपको रास्ता दिखा रहे हैं, गो बैक.
During Diwali, people clean and decorate their homes, and you know it's time for a reset. Painting hoti hai. There are these little traditions that happen. Is there a connection between this practice and the cleansing of Ayodhya before Sri Ram?
You could say that, right? I mean, it's a new beginning. So in the new beginning, you have to start with decluttering and throwing away all the accumulated kachra that you have, right? Not just externally, but internally. So in that sense, all our festivals have a spiritual element to it. तो घर की तो सफाई करो, बट मन की भी करो. इसीलिए हम कहते हैं कि सब निकाल दो, मन के भाव निकाल दो. किसी के साथ दुश्मनी हुई है, then this is the day or this is the time when you start talking to each other again. Go visit each other's home, right? So you're not throwing out just the kachra of the house, but also of your mind. And of course, Ayodhya was cleansed, and 14 years the Praja was waiting for Sri Ram to come back. So how will you celebrate anything? Always by cleaning, right? You want to be at your best. Swachhata is a key part of it.
Yeah.
So it begins with Swachhata, then you decorate, then you have light, Dipavali, so deep, Praktana, all that. So light, right? We all need light, Tejas, Ojas in our life. So this is the time to bring that Tejas back into our life, both in our homes and within us.
Amazing. We have a next segment. It's called Ask a Historian. Which character in the Ramayana, according to you, deserves more attention and exploration from our viewers?
The character which is lesser known or deserves more space is Lakshman ji. Sri Ram could be Sri Ram because Lakshman ji was Lakshman ji. The way this brother has stood by Sri Ram when Sri Ram was at his lowest, it's just beautiful. Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. The last year when Sita Ma was kidnapped by Ravan, Sri Ram had lost it. Every now and then he was ready to give up. He would get angry and he will say, Nashyami Sacharacharam, I'll destroy everything if I don't see Sita Ma. And Lakshman ji will come and he'll be like, Arey, why are you doing this? If you don't show restraint, what will the Praja learn? So please cool down. This happens. We need to learn from he's telling him stories about how people have gone through such downturns in life and they have emerged victorious. When Sri Ram would, cry and fall unconscious, again this guy will pick him up, encourage him, tell him it's all going to be fine. So when he needs to tell him it's all going to be fine, he'll tell that. When he thinks that there needs to be a negative push, then he'll say, see, you have done this, no, clearly this is only going to happen. Your definition of dharma is only wrong. That also he tells him at one point, because he wants Sri Ram to just get out of that negativity, that of loss that he has taken on, So Lakshman's character, I think, is not explored in popular depiction as it should be. Beautiful. That man, I mean,
Does the Ram Setu bridge actually exist? Is there historical evidence to suggest that the places mentioned in the epic actually exist?
So Ram Setu, we know exists, right? We know it is there, which is, now what we don't know is that, is it the whole thing or it was bigger than that and extending beyond that? Because Lanka itself, sometimes people say it was much bigger than what we see now. So wo to hai hi. Rather, that is the biggest archaeological evidence we have. Real archaeological evidence in terms of Ramayana. Apart from that, the places that Ramayana talks about still exist, right? Ayodhya to hai,
Yeah.
but we have Chitrakoot, we have Panchvati, Janasthan, which is the Nasik area. We have Kishkindha, which is the Hampi area now. And they talk about the rivers also there. So they talk about Godavari. When they are coming down Chitrakoot and stuff, they're talking about Gangaji and Mandakini and all of that, right? Now, when they come down to Nasik, they are not talking about those. Now, they are actually talking about Godavari. So, clearly, this differentiation of geography and all that was known, right? फिर वहाँ से जा रहे हैं. So, all these places are very much there, even today. Now, are there archaeological proofs? Not exactly कि भाई हाँ यही वो स्थान है. ये तो हम exactly नहीं कह सकते because this is so many years back, right? The strongest archaeological evidence is the Ram Setu that we have. However, people are also doing a very interesting exercise which is called Archeo-astronomy. So what is Archeo-astronomy? Both Ramayana and Mahabharata have some very interesting observations of the placement of stars and nakshatras. Okay, so for example, they'll say आज श्री राम का राज्याभिषेक होना है, आज पुष्य नक्षत्र है, ठीक है, या पुष्य नक्षत्र है, that is राहु ग्रसित. So they talk about different placements. When Shri Ram was born, they talk about the different placements. कि जो लग्न है वो कर्क राशि में है, जो चंद्र है वो कर्क राशि में है, वगैरह वगैरह. And like that, there are many observations sprinkled everywhere throughout, both in Ramayana and Mahabharata. So what some historians or researchers are doing now is that they are sort of plotting these observations. There are softwares which have been used abroad as well. So there are softwares where you plot these observations and they will give you when such alignment and in such chronology happened. And that's how they're trying to date it. Now, to have this minute observations, if this text was only about entertainment, right? If it was just another story, why will they give so much detail? वो भी उस समय जब लिखना था भी नहीं, oral tradition था, है ना? If they wouldn't have given all this, the poem would have been much smaller than it is, right? It would have been easy to remember. So this is the other thing. There's one more thing. So not archaeological evidence per se, but there is a lot of not overlap, but connection between Ramayana and Mahabharata as well in that sense. So we are told that one of the descendants of Shri Ram actually fought in the Mahabharata war. So his name is Brahadbal, which doesn't come in Ramayana, obviously, because Ramayana ends with Shri Ram story, right? But Brahadbal is the king of Ayodhya, who traces back his lineage to Shri Ram, to the Ikshvaku Vansh, who had fought on the side of the Kauravas in Mahabharata. Yeah. So in both the texts, they have actually listed the lineages. Like in Ramayana, Shri Ram's like 30 ancestors, 30 plus ancestors have been mentioned. Similarly, in Mahabharata, we have 50 plus ancestors mentioned, right? So clearly, these texts were not just for entertainment. They were used as documentation of history as well. Yeah. So archaeological proof, one, but yes, the names, lots of cities even today have the same name and similar placements as how it was in Ramayana.
Very interesting. Let's talk a little bit about Hanumanji. Very popular character, and I think again a fairly understated character in the larger context. What are some of the lessons that we can learn from him?
So Hanumanji's character is beautiful. Yeah. Typically, जो हमारा जो लोक प्रचलित व्यू है हनुमान जी का, वो क्या है कि वह बहुत बड़े भक्त श्री राम के. That is one aspect of him. But the way Valmiki ji talks about Hanuman is actually a little different. He's called Buddhimatam Varishtham, the greatest amongst the intelligent. Yeah. And there is one in Sundarkand, the Valmiki Ramayana wala Sundarkand, Valmiki ji tells us that for any work to be successful, the karta, the doer, needs to have 4 qualities. Yeah, it's called drishti, dhriti, mati, and daksha. Drishti is vision, long-term thinking, to be able to analyze the situation completely, right? Dhriti, resolve, sankalpa. एक बार सोचा है तो करना है, come what may, right? So that resolve. Mati is intelligence. Daksha, अच्छा, अक्कल होके चलता नहीं है. You need to have the skill to implement something, right? That is called daksha. So for one to be successful, all these 4 qualities are needed. Hanuman ji had all of them. Yeah. So Hanuman ji, as we see him in Sundarkand, or rather in Valmiki Ramayana overall, is this person who's extremely intelligent and extremely dependable. आप उनको कोई भी कार्य बोलो, he will get it done. And this impression Shri Ram ji gets in their very first meeting. तो जो पहली meeting उनकी होती है किष्किंधा में, that's very interesting. Hanuman ji comes because they don't know who these 2 youngsters are, right? Sugriv is very scared कि ये कौन है दोनों योद्धा, have they come to kill me? ऐसा सुग्रीव को लग रहा है. तो Hanuman ji says, let me go and find out. So he comes, and the way he starts talking to them, he doesn't want to tell them that we are scared. He doesn't want to tell them that who you guys are, right? He doesn't want to alarm them if they really have come to kill Sugriv. So he starts with flattering them. Yeah, he's like, "Arey, aap dono, who are you? Are you Devaputras or something? You deserve to be in palaces. What are you guys doing here? You're like lions in the forest." All that he keeps saying. But Sri Ram is Sri Ram, so he lets him speak. Ram Lakshman don't say anything. So again, Hanuman ji is talking and observing them. So these guys just let him talk. Now he realizes that, okay, these people are different. They are not going to give in to my flattery. नहीं तो हमेशा क्या होता है कि अगर आप मुझे कुछ कहो कि अरे you're looking nice, तो तुरंत से the ice is broken and I'll say something, right? But Sri Ram doesn't. And he's just observing this person who's come. And then Hanuman ji says, okay, fine. Why are you guys not speaking? And if you're not speaking, now let me come clean. So he says, I'm come from Sugriv, and Sugriv wants to be friends with you. Now at that time, Sri Ram has observed him, and he shares his observations with Lakshman. And Sri Ram says, this person is extremely intelligent and wise and very well learned, because no one who has not, so double negative, no one who has not learnt the 3 Vedas, Rig, Sam, Yajura, cannot speak like this person. His Vani is Shuddha, his Vyakran is perfect, his intonations are as good as they can be. His words are very ruchikar, you love them, they are very kalyanmai. Sri Ram says, anyone who has people like Hanuman working for him, tasya siddhyanti sarva karyani, all his work will get done. Anybody who has people like Hanumanji working for him. So this is the impression Hanumanji gives. And then in Sundarkand, there are these exploits of Hanumanji, like how through various challenges and through his own mental blocks, how he manages to cleanse those mental blocks and eventually meet Sita Ma. And then how he decides to not stop at just finding Sita Ma, because that's the job. He says, no. If I now go back, surely there is going to be a war, right? Now, if we have to fight a war, we need to know what are the strengths and weaknesses of Lanka. If I just go back, I will not know. I will only know if I have seen it. So that's when he decides to do this Ashok Vatika Dwasta. And he's like, even this is not enough. I need to tell Ravan what he's going to face, right? Because maybe that way he will give Sita Ma back. So he's thinking one after the other that how can he ensure that one trip to Lanka, he can achieve everything that he needs to, even without being told. Yeah. So that is why he's called Buddhi Matam Varishtham. So the Bhakti aspect is one aspect of his, but this Buddhi Mata, the intelligence, his smartness is quite something else. And it comes out beautifully in Valmiki Ramayana. Unfortunately, not spoken about. This aspect is not spoken about that much.
Yeah. I didn't know this. There are a lot of myths surrounding the Ramayana. And again, this is from different variations, different packages of versions of books, right? That people read or have access to. What is one such myth that you would like to bust?
There is no Lakshman Rekha in Valmiki Ramayana. Typically, we are used to seeing this, कि अच्छा वो line draw किया. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है Valmiki Ramayana में. It is metaphorical in the sense कि लक्ष्मण जी के सहनशीलता की रेखा टूटी. because of Sita ji's words. पर एक्चुअल लक्ष्मण रेखा का कोई उल्लेख नहीं है, ठीक है. द लक्ष्मण रेखा उल्लेख एक्चुअली कम्स फ्रॉम अ बंगाली नरेशन. कृतिवास रामायण करके बोलते हैं. वहाँ वाल्मीकि मतलब वो रेखा ड्रॉ करने का, वो मेटाफोरिक को लिटरल करने का उल्लेख है. लिटरली लाइन ड्रॉ किया, वो वहाँ से आता है. द अदर इज नाउ फॉर दिस अदर वन, एक्चुअली देयर आर 2-3. For this now that I'll tell you, I've gotten a lot of trolling, yeah? But the truth is the truth. Hanumanji does not have a gada. There is no gada with Hanumanji or any Vanar in Valmiki Ramayana.
Really?
There's no gada. Gada is a later day thing, yeah? Again, I'm saying only in Valmiki Ramayana. अब हम जब पूछते हैं तो obviously we see Hanumanji with gada. बट अगर आप पुराने मंदिर देखो तो माधवाचार्य जी ने 11th century में he established some 700 mandirs of Hanuman ji at that time. None of them should depict the Gada. So after that, the depiction has become much stronger, right? So then the question is, how did they fight? Vanars were supposed to be very, very strong. Vanaraha vanacharinaha, people of the forest. They were supposed to be very, very strong. They actually fought with their hands. They would pull out a tree, they would uproot a tree, or they'll pick up a boulder and then fight with that with their hands and stuff. So mukkabaji and stuff. That's how they fought. So this is the other thing.
Brings me to my last question. The Ramayana is known for a lot of moral teaching. You know, good over evil is the biggest theme. That ultimately evil gets defeated. What is another important lesson, a lesser known one, because you've studied the text, that people should know about?
I think good over evil is very simplistic, I would say. Yeah, कि हाँ वो श्री राम अच्छे रावण बुरा. But as we saw, it's not really that.
It's complex.
It's more complex than that. But the biggest lesson for me is something actually I spoke about before, right? It is not the victory of good over evil. It is actually a victory of a person who is in control of his senses, who knows what is right and wrong, what should be done, what should not be done, and who knows that his actions are going to have an impact on the society, and hence he acts responsibly. It is a victory of such a person over another who is very strong, but has completely become a slave to his senses, takes decision not from a point of view of what is good for my people, but me. मेरे लिए क्या अच्छा, मेरे लिए क्या बुरा, right? Only that, only me. And in the process ends up taking decisions and actions which harm the larger society. It is the truth of life which is coming out of these epics. It is exactly the truth of life. So then what is the learning for us? The learning for us is, in our lives, when we are faced with whatever situations, how do we decide? Are we taking decisions with a mind that is controlled, or with a mind that is enslaved to our senses and to the Shadaripu's of Kam, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsarya? We will never be 100% this or that. But at least are we aware of what our vrittis are when we are taking a decision? At least let's start with that, right? So that's where it eventually goes to. That how do we take decisions in our life? And that is what these epics teach us.
Fantastic. I learned a lot. Thank you so much. And I think we'll definitely do a part 2 where we can go deeper into certain anecdotes. We must know more such lessons that are lesser known based on your study. But thank you so much, and thank you for coming on such a festive time.
Thank you. Shubh Dipavali to you and the team.
Happy Diwali. Thank you for being the best community, and we'll see you in the next one.